Welcome back to the BJJ Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Ford. My guest today is a highly accomplished wrestler. He was a two-time high school state champion out of New York, going 50-0 as a senior. He received All-American honors as a true freshman at Binghamton University before transferring to North Carolina State University, where he'd earned 3 additional All-American honors. He would also go on to become a two-time NCAA Division I national champion. After college, he became a two-time freestyle world's bronze medalist and a Pan American Games gold medalist, as well as a two-time Pan American freestyle champion. He also was a two-time U.S. national champion. Today, he's a volunteer assistant coach at Cornell University. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be joined today by Mr. Nick Gwiazdowski. How are you today, Nick?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course, Nick. I've always enjoyed watching your matches, man. I always appreciate that despite the fact that you're a big guy, you're very agile, you have a quick shot, you time your shots really well, you're fun to watch, man. So I'm looking forward to getting to hear your story and collecting some insight from you that might be valuable to our listeners. So thanks for the time.
Yeah.
Nick, the question I always like to start with, tell us about where you're from originally and how you found wrestling.
Yeah, so I'm from upstate New York, a small town called Waynesburg, 25 minutes west of Schenectady in Albany. My parents didn't wrestle. My brother didn't wrestle. We had friends on the street that wrestled that we were really close with. I was a little bit chunkier as a kid, and my brother was better than me at the normal sports, and I just kind of gravitated toward wrestling. I would spend a lot of time fighting with my brother. So he's 3 years older than me, so I would always have a little bit of success being kind of chunkier and a little bit stronger and more dense. And I just gravitated to it, and it's something that made sense in my mind, and I knew how to do things, and there's kind of no rules to it. And probably the one thing that throughout my upbringing that I liked the most about it was it's on me. If I do well, it's on me. If I mess up, make mistakes, it's on me. It's not like, the third base coach called the kid to steal a base and he got out and I'm SOL. No, it's like, no, I screwed up. I made a mistake. It's not on some other kid, a teammate, this or that. It's all on yourself. I think that's kind of why I attracted to it. And I had some early success in the sport. When I mean early, I mean winning some local wrestling tournaments, nothing regional or national like that. Like very, very small local like Pee-wee tournaments. That was cool. I won and I liked it. So
that's incredible. That's really cool. I always think it's nice to hear that, because a lot of people that get involved in different combat sports, whether it's wrestling or jiu-jitsu or boxing or whatever, they love that idea that it really is an individual pursuit. Everything's on you. And then when you're making adjustments to get better and better, you're not having to coordinate with a bunch of other people to make improvements overall. It's you focusing on your flaws and errors and things that you need to improve upon. And it makes the journey a little more, personal, obviously, because it's just you're focusing on yourself. So I think that probably resonates with a lot of people who participate in martial arts in general,
Yeah. It's definitely real, because I can get as good as I want, I think there's a saying like, he who goes the fastest goes alone, or something like that. Well, sometimes you can go pretty far when it's just you sitting at home in the summertime. And maybe there's not wrestling, but you can lift, you can do conditioning, you can find ways to do things. You don't have to be like, oh, well, I can't, I got no one to throw the football to. I got no one to block downfield. Like, I got no one to, throw the baseball at me. I got no one to throw the baseball back to me. Like, all that type of stuff. And I'm sure the greats in those sports have found ways to do it. But I find that there's something special about being the only one out there facing your challenges on your own. No finger pointing. It's just there's one finger to point. It's yourself. Like, if you were prepared, you win. If you weren't prepared, it was on you. It's very black and white. And there's been times that after events, I've been like, wow, I won because I was prepared. And the times I lost, and yeah, it's on me. I wasn't prepared. I won't point my finger at my coaches, because I know when I'm prepared, and if I wasn't prepared, I should have said, I need some more. I don't think I'm at that level. But that's kind of how it goes, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think another thing that people experience when they participate in individual sports too is the highs and lows of winning and losing. Like if you lose on a team, I feel like the feeling of frustration kind of gets dispersed amongst a group of people. Whereas if you lose a wrestling match or a jiu-jitsu match or a boxing match or something like that, it's very heavy on yourself. But on the other side of the coin, when you win, all the glory is yours. Like it's just a euphoric feeling when you win and you do well because it's you by yourself that did it, you know? For
sure. That's accurate. I think it also, especially in wrestling, I don't know so much in the jiu-jitsu culture, but there's always, you can be better. You can be better. You can be better. So it's like, I've won matches. I've won tournaments where it's like, we made mistakes here, there, and there. Or, yeah, you won the tournament, but the number one guy wasn't there. It was like, well, fuck that. Like, you still won. Like, you still got to take some positivity out of it, right? There's an event. You showed up and you won. But as you get more and more detail, you want everything to be perfect. And that's kind of the point that I'm into now is like chasing that perfection, right? Because to be number one, to be the Olympic champion, to be the USA representative, you need to wrestle very, very close to perfect matches. There's always going to be imperfections and mistakes made, but you need to minimize those as much as you can.
Well, it's like you said too. Like the wrestling is a sport in that the margins of error can be so small. Like so many matches are won by just a hair, just the right
yes.
timing of a scramble, the right point of control at the right time, and it can be really, as you said, perfection is something that should always be sought because, like you said, it can be won by a hair sometimes. So
yeah, and we practice that a lot in our room. Is I may not have guys in my room or that's match me in every position, but I know I need to be perfect in my training because when I do encounter those matches, I need to make the correct decision because if I make a hesitated decision or if I go to let's say a number 2 or number 3 finish that maybe isn't as high percentage because it's a little easier, whatever it may be, that can really fuck me in the big time. So it's making sure everything's perfect every time you go through, because if I work on the best guy, I'll work on all the other guys. So when I'm no matter who I'm wrestling within the practice room, I'm doing the same stuff that's going to work on the number one guy.
Nick, what do you think are some principles of competition that you learned in high school that stayed with you for the rest of your wrestling career?
Principles of competition. It's an interesting question. Probably the only one is respect your competitors. I always learned to wrestle hard and wrestle the entire time. That's kind of always who I've been. Winning or losing, I've never really thrown in the towel. There's been matches I've gotten my butt kicked, but maybe I scored the last takedown. All right, but just always competing hard. I guess that's kind of innate in me. That's just kind of part of who I am. Even times when I was younger and like really outmatched, I just keep wrestling, right? And I think that's something that, and no matter what the combat sport is, that kind of can make you dangerous, where, yeah, it may not be the best, but like, I'm not going to give up. And I don't watch a ton of jiu-jitsu. I don't watch a ton of other combat sports. I watch a fair amount of MMA, but it's like, you see guys in MMA where it's like, as long as they're still moving, they got a chance, and given those other sports, the same with wrestling, right? You have a pin, it can end it all. You got a submission, a knockout, whatever, it could end it all. So at no point is it over until the referee blows the final whistle and it's like, okay, done, get off each other. So
no, that's definitely a great principle. Having tenacity and tenacity is so valuable because, like you said, like how many fights have you seen in the history of combat sports where one guy is technically doing better throughout the fight, but the other guy just keeps coming forward and eventually overwhelms through cardio.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. So you look at those 5-round fights and you're like, he's getting pieced up round 2 and 3, but like the more technical guy, yes, he's good, but he gets soft sometimes.
Yeah.
It makes him, and then these guys are like punching bags and just keep moving forward, and they may be getting their ass kicked, but they didn't back down. They're still there. And if you're still on your feet, you've still got a chance, really.
Yeah. There's always been those fights where like there's a Hail Mary attempt at something, whether it's a submission or a knockout, or in wrestling, a takedown that could turn things around.
A takedown and two exposure, and 6 points, boom, right there.
Exactly.
You know, you lock up a finishing type move, and you can really change the course of a match. You can maybe injure the guy, whatever it may be, but it's still legal. You know?
You know, it's cool that you mentioned that that aspect of importance of tenacity, is because that's something I've appreciated about your matches too, is that there's been some matches I've seen you where you were clearly exhausted, but just kept on pressuring forward, kept on coming in, kept on tying up with the guy's head, trying to wear him down. And even the commentators would mention, like, man, that's one thing about Gwiz, is that he'll keep coming forward no matter what. Is that something that you think was you were born with, or is that something that you learned to develop over time?
Probably a little bit of both. Knowing that through college, I think I probably developed it the most. It's just like having a coach would always be pushing you, keep going, go, more. And I do the same thing coaching sometimes, because you can start to see when the guy winning or your opponent, there starts to be a fluster, a body movement of like, oh, like, fuck, this guy's not stopping. I'm up by 5, but he's still moving forward. Like, he hasn't given up. When's he going to give up? You know, and that's what they're looking for. And then if you score a takedown, they get a stall call against them, something, then they start to think like, oh shit, maybe, some sort of fear like kind of gets into you or that type of thing. So I'm always a big fan of, not giving them space to breathe, whether you're winning or losing. You know, if I'm up by 5 on you, up by 6 on you, I don't want to give you space, because if I let you in, get one shot, then I only have a 3-point lead, or you get to some sort of move, a gut wrench or leg lace, then you can have the lead. So just kind of always being focused and winning every position. Don't surrender any positions. Try to win every position. And I've gotten better at that over the years, and I think it continues to evolve. But even when I'm losing, it's like, okay, well, what's next position? Try to win that. Try to get to the leg next. Try to get the next takedown. If I'm down by 10 or 9, okay, let's get 1. There's always small victories in every match. I try not to like wrestle a match like that was a complete failure. Nothing was good. Sure, there's matches like that, but there's also things that are like, hey, that was good. How could I have made that better? Could I have finished a takedown inbounds rather than out of bounds? Could I have not given up the stalemate and instead of scored the takedown? That type of thing. It's like a constant evolution. It's difficult, but it's part of the game.
There's something you said there that I really like. You mentioned that basically, if you can just hang in there, no matter how tired you are, if you can just hang in there a little bit further, oftentimes you can notice subtle signs that your opponent is wilting. And when you see that, it can be a huge motivation. It can really get your second wind going, because you realize, man, this guy's as tired as I am, and now he's showing it. And if you can just bite down and keep going, a lot of times you can snatch victory. And I think for a lot of people, even who just casually train a grappling sport like wrestling or jiu-jitsu, that's important to hear, because everyone knows the feeling of being exhausted and like you see what you're supposed to be doing, you're just too tired to do it. It's nice to know that if you can just hang in there a little bit, sometimes you can find those little moments where you start to get that eye and recognize, like, he's not enjoying this as much. He's starting to will. There's an exhale in him, and then when I coach, I'm telling you, get after him. I don't care what you do, put your fucking hands on him, pull on his head, take half shots, because he wants you to stop. And the moment you stop and go, oh, well, okay, he's tired, I'm tired too. Ooh, let's take a breath. No, punch the pedal and get after him, because now he's thinking about it. He's thinking, do I give up? Do I not give up? But if he backs off, let me catch my breath, I'll be back in this. When you keep getting at him, they're like, dude, take the takedown. Then once one takedown happens and the head's getting pushed, and another takedown happens and the refs go stalling, you got to move faster, pick it up, and then it's you see it too much in college, man. Like, just when you could be up by 5 points in the third period, you give up a takedown, a hard cut, you get back on your feet, you get shot out of bounds, you're dinged with a stall warning, then you take 3 steps back, and then you get a stall call, and then it's a 2-point match, and you take down away from winning. Things really snowball fast. Absolutely, yeah. Nick, you mentioned that mindset of yours is something that really developed in college, and they often talk about the jump in skill level that exists between wrestling in the high school level and the D1 college level. What do you think are some things that you experienced at the D1 level that high school wrestling didn't prepare you for?
Probably that some early on, I wouldn't say so much technique. I would say the strength and intensity. And then also taking your move set from here to here, but these will work on guys. There's tons of wrestling moves I've forgotten since high school, pinning combinations, those type of things, because they didn't work on grown men that weigh 260 pounds. Right? Like, I'm not letting you take my arm and put it in between my legs and you're going to turn me over like that. It just ain't happening, right? Sure, there's some guys I can do it too that I'm far better than, but majority of the guys, not really happening. So I would say that strength and kind of maturity, but also kind of narrowing your moveset down to like, these are working against the guys that you want to beat. I'm not worried about beating the guys that aren't making the national tournament. I want moves that are going to win me matches at the nationals. Win me matches now at the world championships. I'm not worried about winning practice room matches. I want to work on the moves that are going to score me points against the best guys.
That's great. That's a great answer. And for all, obviously our audience is mostly jiu-jitsu people, but I'm sure everyone can relate to that a lot, because as you start in jiu-jitsu, you'll go through this phase when you're learning the basics as a white belt, and then as a blue and purple belt, you just start collecting lots and lots and lots of techniques and seeing what's out there. And then as you become a black belt, you kind of condense everything down like you're describing into the most effective, the most refined, the most reliable techniques that work most frequently. In your opinion, what are some things that you found didn't work anymore at the D1 level? Like, what are some things you had to shave off your game, and what are those condensed pieces that stuck around?
I probably couldn't go into specific moves. I've probably forgotten those, but some things on the mat, some reversals, some different ways to stand up, a couple pinning combinations, stuff like that I wasn't using, and if I was to go back and watch high school wrestling match, like, wow, I did all these moves. But now it's like, on bottom, I do one move, on my feet, or on top, I do three moves, 4 moves. I'm just repeating them over and over at a high skill level and giving you no openings. And same thing on the feet, sure. Now I have a lot of different ways to take people down, but I'm 30 years old. I've been doing it for over 20 years, so I also have a lot of repetitions at all of them. But when I got into college, I simplified it to kind of a high crotch and a single leg. Same thing with jiu-jitsu, right? You watch those high level matches, and the best guys, they're not using, you're not going to catch really good guys in kind of, I don't know, like you said, kind of fancy techniques. Like, they're just really good at basics probably, right? They know how to find, I'm not a professional at it, but like, they know how to find their go-to like that. And that opening is a split second, boom, it's over. I think as you get better at things, you need less time to execute them. So sure, when you're early on, when you're in those lower belt levels, you may need to be like, oh, there's the arm, I need to take it this way and finish this way. But then when you're a black belt, it's like, oh, boom, how'd that happen? Well, you go back, you watch the film, like, oh, I just felt the arm, it wasn't as tense, and I could just take it. You just made the transition, you took it. Well, how'd you feel? Well, what was the setup? Well, I don't know, I felt it pushing into me, and there was no tension on it, so I just took it. The same thing now. Like, I'll watch my own match and be like, how the hell did I get that? I just touched his head and I grabbed his legs.
Yeah.
I got lower than him and I stepped in, and next thing I know, my shoulder was on his waistline. I was running through him. That's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, that's actually. Well, it sounds like it's a lot of result of obviously a lot of muscle memory and a lot of repetition and building it, ingraining it into your brain, so you don't even have to really think. It's more reacting. On that note, do you drill a lot? Like how would you describe the breakdown of your day-to-day training, especially when you're active in the NCAA?
A lot of drilling. a lot of drilling. And as I got older into college, sophomore, junior, senior year, like, you know, coach would be running, okay, we're doing this from bottom, we're doing this from bottom, we're doing like, and I'm like, I don't do that. I'm going to do this move. This is what I do against the worst guy and the best guy. So I'm working the same thing, you know. I'm not gonna start doing things that I'm not as good at, and you know, I'm gonna hammer one thing till I'm really good at it. Same thing with leg attacks, right? You know, I want to be able to execute those in my sleep, you know, to the fact that like I doing them slow is difficult, you know, where you just want to do them so many times. And even guys I coach now, you know, we'll be doing individual workouts. It's like, okay, we're doing the same thing again. We're going to hammer this so many times that when it hits, it's going to be a big match against someone you really need it, and you're not going to know you went to it. I want you to be doing these moves when you're not even thinking about it. So
yeah, a lot of people, they tend to split their training 50-50 from what I've seen. Like a lot of people are doing live sparring and a lot of people are doing drilling, but I see the value in repetition over and over and over in something. That way it's just ingrained in your muscle memory and you don't even have to think. So that's
for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drilling, but also they'll get times where it's like, okay, well, let's get into sparring, kind of that 50, 60, 70% live. I don't want to say live, but like 50, 60% like back and forth. So let me start to get to these things, right? And let me start to see my reactions at work. And then, you know, when they're not hitting, when, you know, the setups aren't there, I'll go back, I'll drill them some more. I'll drill them some more, drill them some more, drill them some more. To the point where it's all right, well, then you start to do them live and you get into those live situations. You don't have to, I'm not thinking like, okay, grab the wrist, roll down, reach here, swing here. It's just, oh, worked. When you do this and think about every step, it's gone.
It's funny because every time I think about when I'm failing a technique or when I lose a position, usually the last thing I'm thinking was, okay, wait, where's this grip go? And then I'm flipped over. So it's like, you know,
and you're grappling against good guys. You're not having that problem against new guys.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know, you're having those problems. Oh, the guy's experienced. Well, how did you miss it? Because he's experienced too and recognized it coming. You know, you gave him enough time to recognize the threat and properly defend himself against the threat.
Absolutely. Yeah. What are some extra training methods outside of the wrestling room that you think helped benefit you the most? I know that you take strength and conditioning seriously. What specific things do you think helped most as far as off the mat training goes?
Off the mat training, that's when I was young, fighting with my brother in probably every room in the house.
That's always
that was a combination. That was a combination of MMA and wrestling and grappling and
tenacity too. Yeah.
Yes, you had to do it fast before mom or dad came in and kicked your ass. But
it's always that time limit. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like. The only other thing I would say is like go to the gym and I spent some time working on speed and agility. I still do. I think having good conditioning is an important part of it. It's uncomfortable to do, but it's kind of a necessity in all seriousness. Like, you know, you got to have that gas tank to go along and even it's a different type of conditioning sometimes, probably jiu-jitsu being different because you're not, say, running as much or your legs aren't moving underneath you, but you need to be able to have, you know, arms that can go for a while and a core that can breathe heavy and be powerful from non-dominant positions. And the same thing, you know, very similar with wrestling, right? Wrestling, we're bent over at the waist the whole time, which is pretty difficult. But those are things you work on in your conditioning and, kind of build you up, so you're kind of like very almost like you're wearing an armor.
Yeah.
Right. You know, okay, my technique's good, my mental is sharp, right? My reactions are going to be fast. I'm not thinking about other things. As soon as the whistle blows, the only thing I'm thinking about is what's next. I'm not thinking about, you know, oh, his shoe. This, no, it's just all muscle memory and execution. And then I know I'm in good shape. I don't have to worry about late in matches. Oh, I get tired. I start thinking too much. I get tired. No, just don't think. And you're built for it. I'm built for it. I'm ready to go. Everything's going to be, good. I've been strength and conditioning training, so I know I can go for a long time. But also, my body's in shape where getting injured would be difficult. Because I've tested my muscles, my ligaments, my joints, where I'll take my chances when I'm ready to go compete.
That's excellent. Yeah, it's funny. Like every time I've been hurt that I can think about having an injury from training, it's usually during a time where I slacked off on my lifting. Like I swear, like when I'm lifting, I don't get hurt much. It's just I don't know what it is. I mean, obviously, it's obvious.
I think it's a super important part of injury prevention is being strong and nimble, or nimble and limber, I guess. Yeah, limber. Yeah. But you see people, oh, I got hurt. Well, it's like, do you do any other exercise? Oh no, I just play basketball. I just well, you got to do some other strength training on the side to kind of keep your joints, your ligaments, your muscles in good working fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something you said earlier. You said that you obviously you focus a lot on speed training and agility. And I mentioned in the introduction, that's one of the things I always appreciated you as a big guy. It was how agile you are on the mats. And we talk a lot about, on this show, we end up talking to a lot of people that use their skills against bigger people. I don't get to talk as much the other way around about what big guys can do to be more effective. So on that note, what are some things as a big guy that you specifically like to do to help yourself be more agile and fast?
I think speed ladders, box jumps, those type of things. But really, in my own, like when you're actually competing, I was just talking to a guy today about this. It's like I can be strong and be the bully, but I don't want to lean on you and give you my weight, right? I don't want to try to use my weight as an advantage on you, because all it takes is one slip up, and there's a reversal. There's a takedown. I need to be able to move on my own accord, but I also need to control you. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to grab a hold of you and squeeze you, because as soon as I slip, I want to be able to move and counter your reversal, counter your takedown attempt, and then maybe go for my own. But I don't want to just kind of look to bully you and look to do those things. There's time for that. But there's also time to move on my own and control myself. Because if you're small, you're probably going to be faster than me. But if I can move well enough and one good setup and execute into a position where maybe you weren't expecting me to get to, I can be pretty dangerous.
Absolutely, yeah. The other thing I've seen a lot too when you get into the heavier weight classes is that when the guys are pretty evenly matched size and strength-wise, it's usually whoever has the agility and speed is going to have a tremendous advantage physically. And so it's like, man, why would you not put time into that? You know what I mean? So it's cool that it's something you focus on.
Yeah, there's a lot of science behind the nerves of the muscle, the fast twitch muscle that makes those reactions happen fast and fast and often, really. It's like anyone can do it a few times, but can you consistently do it?
Nick, a lot of our listeners are active competitors or at least aspire to compete. So hearing insight from people like yourself is always really valuable. So I appreciate your time again. Something a lot of people face in competition is self-doubt. And almost everyone who competes will experience at some point that sudden rush of negative thoughts, self-doubts, things like that. What advice would you give someone who's going through that moments before stepping out on the mat?
Yeah, probably the biggest things I would suggest are repeating positive affirmations. Find some type of phrase that reinforces what you are or what you believe in, and not just think it, but actually say it. There's proof behind actually verbalizing a statement that takes your head off of everything else that's going on, and the only focus is what is coming out of your mouth right now. So if I'm getting warmed up, right, and I'm thinking, oh, fuck, this guy beat me before, he's big, he's strong, fast and explosive, Nick, fast and explosive, fast and explosive, fast and explosive. The moments that I was saying those, I was not thinking about the guy who's beaten me before. I'm thinking fast and explosive, and those are what I want to do. Those are my goal, my goals and what I'm bringing myself towards when I go out there. I'm not just sitting around thinking, oh shit, he's choked me out before. He's blasted me off my feet before. Well, this guy's big. Shit, he's big. Now, what am I? I'm fast and explosive. Fast and explosive. Smart and agile. I'm smart and agile. You know, say things out loud. I think that's really important. There's a lot of good books to read on it too. I think Mind Gym is probably the best one ever. A really big fan of that book. I've read it twice. And then there's another one. I can't think of what it's called. Peak Performance. Peak Performance is, I think, another great book. A little bit more training based. But a lot of great lessons in terms of getting yourself to peak performance and recognizing, you know, more so in jiu-jitsu than wrestling, because not a lot of adults wrestle recreationally. That there's a formula to being successful, right? And that formula is based around stress plus rest equals growth. So there needs to be a certain level of stress on the body, and that's your workouts. But you also need to recover, and there needs to be a balance of those two to create growth. And it's not always like this. Sometimes it's like this. You know, it's never a consistent ascending line, but after enough of this, it made it a little bit different. And the better you are, the longer it takes to get from here to here. You know, this for me is months, maybe a year. You know, if you start wrestling more from here to here, a month maybe. You know, when you're just starting out, you're going to get a lot better, a lot faster. But you guys with higher belts, you know, and even black belts, it's like, wow, to get to that next level, to beat that next guy, like that's time. That's a lot of time and a lot of repetitions. And that growth takes time, but you know, there's a formula to accomplish it.
Outstanding. I really like. I love what you said about verbalizing affirmations. That's something I don't think I've heard someone say on the show before. I've heard of people saying the importance of writing things down physically, and how that really engraves. Like when you're taking notes, writing it down, the process of writing it helps. And in that same way, I could see where verbalizing something would really make a bigger impact than just thinking a thought over and over, because then the thoughts just getting mixed in with all the negative ones. So that's really cool, man.
Yeah, there's always a lot of negative thoughts, but you have to. There's a way to get rid of them, and you know it's always good to remind yourself everyone has these. You know, our brains are naturally programmed, and I'm not just making this information up. An actual doctor told me this, but our brains are naturally programmed to attract to the negative, to attract to the worst case scenario, to attract to the what we aren't and what the other person is. You know, so yes, you could be warming up and be like, wow, that guy's got huge triceps and biceps and he's got a sweet gi on. It's like he's sitting there going like, he doesn't know you. Shit, you know, you don't know what goes through his head. You know, so just realize that it's like that's both sides of the fence. Like you have those things, but don't think the other guy's perfect. The other guy has doubts too.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a matter at that level, too, of just developing a good poker face, appearing calm. And so a lot of times I think when you see NCAA champions, when you see black belt world champions in jiu-jitsu, things like that, they appear like it's just another day at the office. And for a lot of them, they've gotten it down to a point where it is, by and large, another day at the office, but they're still feeling nerves. You just can't see it as much because they're a little better at hiding it, and they're a little more accustomed to having a game face on. But it's always nice to hear when I interview people who've reached the highest levels of grappling that, man, no matter who you are, you feel nerves before a match, and there's doubts no matter what.
Nerves is a sign that you're ready. Yeah. That's your body saying you're ready to go compete, to go get in a fight. And you know, I remind myself I'm built for this. Everything I do is preparing me to go get on a wrestling mat and fight another man for 6 minutes. My lifting, my sleep, my lifestyle, my diet, everything revolves around getting out on that mat and competing. So I know when I step out on that mat, I'm prepared. You know, I'm prepared, I'm zeroed in, I'm ready to go. And I've done it so many times that, yeah, you're a little nervous, and I just run like, no, I'm built for this. What am I worried about? You know, I know when I go compete, I'm ready to go.
Out of curiosity, am I built for this your affirmation? Is that something you say?
No, it's just something I remind myself of. Sometimes I'll say that. My other one's fast and explosive. And you verbalize them. Fast and explosive. Because, you know, what do I want to do to take the other out? Fast and explosive. I don't want to be slow and this. No, I want to get to him and get through him. And keep my feet moving.
That's excellent. Man, Nick, you gave me goosebumps, bro. I appreciate this. This is awesome. Great advice, man. I really do appreciate it. Nick, I tell you what, we've reached about the halfway point of the show here, man. This is where I always play a game with my guests. This is a game called The Pummel. The Pummel is a series of random questions. Some of these are about grappling and jiu-jitsu. Some of them have nothing to do with grappling. But if you're down to play The Pummel, I'd like to play this lightning round with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, man. Question 1. What's the worst job you've ever had?
Oh, wow. Maybe I had to dig a hole in the mud once. That sucked. It wasn't even a job. It was at a house that I lived in, and I had a leak in the water, like the water coming into the house. Yeah. And I had to dig through like 5 feet of like mud to find where the leak was to replace the pipe. It sucked. We were like you're just like shoveling slop, and it was hot. It was disgusting.
Yeah, stuff like that's always terrible, but it's so much worse when you're not getting even paid for it. So it's.
Oh yeah, no, because I'd have to pay a plumber so much money to even do it, and we didn't know exactly where it was. It was just like this big wet area. It was like, well, let's start digging and going toward the more wetness we find.
It's a good thing it wasn't like a septic tank issue. That would have been a.
Yeah, no. Luckily, it was fresh water coming in.
That would put it at the very top of all worst encounters ever, worst jobs ever. Yeah. What do you think is a secret talent that you have that people might not know about?
Ooh, secret talent. Geez, I don't know. I can eat quite a bit. I like eating cheeseburgers quite a bit. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, dude, I'm a huge
I've eaten a 3-pound cheeseburger before.
Oh my god. That's amazing, man. That's a heavyweight lifestyle, bro. I'm telling you. But dude, so I'm actually like a burger connoisseur myself. So describe your perfect burger.
Man, that's a good question. I've been on a big kick of smash burgers.
Okay, yeah, cool.
But like smash burgers, a good soft like Martin's potato bun. And usually like kind of the best is kind of like cheap melted cheese on it. Yeah. With like pickles. And onion. I'm not a tomato guy. I think that's stupid. And like shredded lettuce, mayo, shredded lettuce. I don't even need ketchup and mustard. Or if there's like a good like burger sauce on it. But almost every place we go to, I look up Yelp on burgers on Yelp and like kind of like, oh wow, this place looks good. Or like I'll search ahead of time, like when we're traveling somewhere, like best burgers in town. Like, all right, hey, let's go here. And I think they got good burgers.
That's awesome. Yeah.
What's funny is I didn't like burgers growing up either. Like I was a hot dog kid.
Okay.
I just didn't. I thought ground beef was gross, and now like I eat it probably 4 nights a week.
Oh, that's amazing, dude. The city I live in has a big like they do artisanal burgers. It's like there's like hundreds of restaurants here, and it's something I like every other weekend. I can't do it every weekend, otherwise I'll just blow up. But I try every other week. I try to try like a new burger spot in town. So I like smash burgers too. But man, I love like the big, thick, like fat artisanal burgers. You know?
Yeah, it just depends. Like, not all places like make their own.
Yes, that's the problem.
I don't want to go to a place and get a frozen burger. Yes. Like, are you making these in the back? Then yeah, I know if they're making a smash burger, then they're probably smashing it themselves.
100%. Yeah, they're seasoning it and they're smashing it themselves. That's a better call for sure. What's your most hated food? What's something you can't eat no matter what?
Raw beef liver is pretty gross.
I've never had that. What's that like?
I think it's gross. When I'll eat it sometimes for like some of the nutrients. Okay. But I'll freeze it and just like swallow the pieces. But like straight up raw, it's gross. I think it's nasty.
It's raw beef liver.
Yeah, I know some guys eat it straight. I'm like, no, not me.
Oh man, I imagine it's like
pretty gross.
It's like high in iron and stuff like that. I imagine
iron, a lot of other minerals and micronutrients, but like, man, not me. Okay. I freeze it and then I'll like take it like pills.
Nice.
But I can't chew it or anything like that. That's probably the grossest thing I've had. I don't like that.
That's a solid workaround though for food the food that's important to take but that you hate is to freeze it and take it like a pill. I've never that might be a first for that I've heard someone do that.
Yeah, my wife was like, "Oh, just put it in your protein shake." I'm like, "No, because it might ruin the entire shake." Like, I don't want to risk ruining an entire shake. Like this is like one little piece of this can fuck the entire thing.
What's the matter, Nick? You don't want to have a chocolate liver shake? Come on, sounds kind of good. No,
no, I'd rather enjoy the chocolate shake and then struggle with the other stuff.
Yeah, I hear you. What do you think is what's the worst injury that you've had in your career?
Worst injury? Probably either high ankle sprain. Actually, a high ankle sprain or a MCL, LCL injury, or like last summer I had bursitis on my knee that lasted for like 3 months. I had to have it drained and some shots put in it. It just wouldn't go down. That was it wasn't painful. It was painful to wrestle on, so I didn't wrestle for like 3 months because I just couldn't put it on the mat.
Yeah, bursitis is a tough one, man. I know guys have had it in like their elbows and their knees, and they all say it's like one of the most chronic, annoying things they've dealt with. So
yeah, and it doesn't. And what was weird with mine, like it didn't hurt doing anything, but like I couldn't put my knee on a wrestling mat, so now I have to wear a knee pad on that knee. But other than that, it's fine.
Man, well, I hope that gets better soon, man. That's definitely frustrating.
Yeah, it's good now. It's just I just always wear a knee pad.
Yeah, that's good. What do you think was the scariest moment of your life?
Ooh, I don't know if I've really had one, honestly.
No near-death experiences, no shocking things that you've encountered, no ghosts in the house?
No, nothing like that. No. I guess I've been pretty lucky.
Good. All right, good. What do you think is your most hated position to get stuck in wrestling? Besides being pinned, obviously.
Just say, yeah, on my back.
For wrestlers, I have to always modify that question a little bit, yeah.
Most hated position, I would say just getting into like some sort of body lock where you're trapped and you're not fucked yet, but you know you're soon to be fucked. Like that's it for me, right? Like I don't like guys getting underhooks on me. I've had a couple of competitors that have kind of beaten me up in the underhook position. And again, I've worked a lot in there to improve since then. But probably the worst one is like getting a body lock. There's this guy from Russia that did to me twice where he just got to a body lock and it was like you feel him getting underneath you and locking his hands and you're just like, fuck, like I can't do anything now.
Yeah, so. That's a terrible feeling, being in a body lock and being unable to pummel your arms into underhooks of your own. You just know that nothing good's going to be coming from here. It's terrible.
Yep.
Who do you think's your favorite wrestler of all time?
Favorite wrestler of all time, to watch or dominant wise or just in general?
In general, yeah.
I don't know. I would say at this moment, guys that I've watched, probably David Taylor.
Good choice. Yeah.
Just his level of technical ability, and he's a friend of mine too, so that might be a little biased, but his technical ability, but also the guys that he's beating and beating them by the margins he's beating them by says a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely a great choice, man. David Taylor's unbelievable, man. I love watching him as well. What do you think is your biggest phobia?
Biggest phobia?
Besides liver.
I don't know. There's not a ton of things. I think like mice always scare the shit out of me when they're alive.
Yeah, right.
Mice. I've had no run-ins with rats, but like mice, like when you're like, I don't know, like cleaning an old house or something, you find like mice, you're like, oh, that's probably the one that gets me. Or like my cats used to bring like a mouse in or something like that. It was still alive. Didn't like it at all. I've gotten more used to it, but I still don't like it.
One of the things that I love about that question that happens all the time is I interview these big, strong, tough dudes who are like champions, and then like what small animals freak them out the most, whether it's like a spider or a mouse. I appreciate you being candid with that answer. Mice are a common one that comes up more often than not. You mentioned you watch MMA as well. Who's your all-time favorite MMA fighter?
Man, Chael Sonnen.
Chael Sonnen, the bad guy. Good choice, man.
Yeah, Uncle Chael.
That's
again,
awesome.
Friend of mine, but also Maybe I'm a little biased, but I'll say Chael.
I love watching Chael fight, but more than that, more than anything, I could listen to Chael's son and tell a story about making a sandwich and be like fully locked in and enthralled. That dude has the ability to tell a story and talk like no one else. Unbelievable.
So let me tell a story quick.
Yeah,
so a couple of years ago, I was going out to Oregon to do a wrestling camp. I was in college or something, and this was right when I think he got popped the first time, like right after he fought Anderson, and they were both suspended or something like that. So I tweeted something about like, oh, going out to Oregon, where's the bad guy, you know? And out of nowhere, he DMs me, and here's this guy that follows nobody, and he sent me a DM. I'm like, oh shit. So he's like, you're really coming out here? Like, let's link up, let's work out. So I was like, sure, I'd love to. So I teach a wrestling camp, and I go to we went to the gym or his strength conditioning place. So we do a workout and we're hanging out. He's like, well, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm leaving later. He's like, oh, why don't you stay another day? I was like, I got nothing, you know, I got nothing to do at home, but, you know, got nowhere to stay or anything else to do. He's like, oh, just stay at my house, no problem. So I was like, sure, Joe invites you to stay at his house, you stay at his house.
Of course, yeah.
So, like, Thera was young, and it was him and Brittany, and I think we went out to eat one day. The next day, we looked at all these super fancy homes that, like, had, like, a parade of homes, and then we just sat there and watched, like, TV for hours, and he just sat there and drank cola. And, dude, I couldn't get a word in. He was just saying, telling me all these crazy stories, and I would just ask questions like, what about this? And he'd go on this big, long story. I was like, what about this one? Another huge story. I'm like, this guy's awesome. I was like, and then like after a couple hours, like, so what like happened with like the failed drug test? Once I got like comfortable with it, he's like, what I took, you could get at the store. You can get that at Walgreens. What Anderson took is actually illegal. Yeah. That is criminal. So ever since then, we've been friends. When we're, you know, within close distance, we'll always link up and stuff like that. But you're right. He can tell a story like no other.
Dude, that's incredible. I couldn't imagine just sitting there for a full day with him just going nonstop. Chael he has to have a mic on him 24/7. Just like a streaming 24-hour. You can tune in whenever you want, you know?
And his wife's just as funny because she'll like, be like, oh, Chael's talking again. Okay. Well, why don't you let him get a word in? Like, it's funny.
That's awesome. That's so cool, man. Well, good choice for your favorite MMA fighter, man. He's definitely an awesome fighter in person. What do you think is an embarrassing song or band that you secretly like?
Embarrassing song. I got nothing, man. Like the music I listen to isn't too popular, but.
What do you like? What do you listen to?
It's like outlaw country, Americana, folk music.
Yeah.
But now I'm not embarrassed by it. It's just when people ask like, oh, what do you like to listen to? Like, it's too tough to explain. Like, you won't get it.
That's awesome.
The way they say some generic.
Yeah.
Just off the beaten path too much.
That's awesome. That's cool. What do you think is your favorite sports team outside of wrestling?
Probably the Buffalo Bills.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not a huge sports guy, but yeah, I like the Bills.
That's cool. Yeah, the Bills have recently become like my second team. I've always been a Chicago Bears guy, but the Bills became my second team now because I got a buddy that lives here who's from Buffalo. He's lived here for like 25 years, and he always invites me over to watch games with him and stuff. So we've been following this. So through him, I've become a part of the Bills mafia. So
I've only been a fan for the last like 5 years, but. I like them. I've been to a game and I enjoy it.
That's pretty cool. That's good. Who do you think is your favorite superhero?
I don't know. I don't watch Marvel
Not
or
a comic guy.
Comic book. No.
Okay. Well,
I don't even watch those movies.
Okay. Here's a follow-up question then. If you could have a superpower, what would you choose?
Oh, geez. Maybe like time warp, maybe to like not go back in time, but just like jump to different things rather than have to like drive places and that type of shit.
That'd be good. That'd be nice. You also
instead of having to like drive or fly places, just like snap your fingers and boom, I'm there.
That'd be great. That'd be good. That would help when you can't escape a body lock either. We talked about the body lock thing earlier. Just press a button, you're out.
Yeah,
you're
just
gone.
boom.
Yeah, it's like, dude, how does he do it? Yeah.
Boom, I'm flat on my belly.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Do you play video games at all?
No, I used to. Actually, no. I played video games with my brother growing up, but haven't played in a long time.
Not in a long time. Okay. What do you think is what's your biggest pet peeve?
Pet peeve. It's got to be when people say something they're going to do and they just don't do it.
Yeah.
That grinds my gears. Like, well, then just don't tell me you're not going to do it. Don't just tell me it and to get me to shut up. Just be like, nah, I'm good. Okay, perfectly fine. Yeah, that's probably it.
That's a good answer. Final question for the Pummel game, Nick. If a zombie apocalypse breaks out right now, what's the first thing you do?
Probably have to go get a gun.
Definitely got
one thing I've been putting that on my to-do list, and I just haven't gotten one yet. It's too difficult in New York right now. So
I understand. Yeah, no, definitely got to arm yourself for zombie apocalypse. Wrestling and jiu-jitsu and grappling is great, but when they can bite you and that's how the infection begins, you got to get long-range weapons.
Yeah.
That's definitely the better call.
Yes, long range, exactly.
And Nick, that was the final question for the Pummel game. Congratulations, you win. You got your double underhooks. Nick, the world of jiu-jitsu over the last decade or so has been slowly adapting more and more wrestling techniques into the game. And today, the sport's rapidly becoming more and more of like a hybrid grappling game. So many jiu-jitsu athletes are eager to include wrestling-style takedowns into their arsenals. And I've had several conversations on the show surrounding that. But another aspect of wrestling that I think is really important to not overlook is the idea of mat work and control. Now, don't get me wrong. As I've said earlier, man, you have some phenomenal shots that you take in your matches. But I've always your mat returns and your mat work are always something I've really appreciated as well. So I'd like to pick your brain on that today, if you don't mind. What would you say is the most important overarching concept when it comes to mat returns?
Mat returns, so like standing behind the guy and they're on his feet.
Mm-hmm.
So two different ways, right? You keep your hands locked and kind of step off to the side and kind of a torquing motion. That's probably the most popular. Obviously not straight back suplex style. I think unless you're experienced in that motion, you kind of set yourself up to pulling his ass on your nose. And the second one, which I'm big on because I think it's much more successful on bigger guys, is kind of dropping down to a leg, dropping down to like a head outside shot and running through a double leg or a high crotch finish from there to bring them back to the mat. That's when I had a lot of success in college because I'd find myself wrestling guys that are 3-4 inches taller than I am. And it's tough when, you go to lift them and, their toes are still on the mat, that type of thing. But if I can get in a lower power position and kind of run through, and I don't want to plug my video here, but I'm gonna, I go through that in my one mat wrestling videos, it's kind of, when they do get their feet, mat returns there. And that's something I still hammer with my guys, because when you're tired, it's tough to lift a guy up and run and, slam him back to the mat. But if you can get into what your most powerful position, a squatted position, and you're already deep on their leg, that puts you in a pretty good spot, I think.
That's great advice. On that note, what are your thoughts on the idea of like you see a lot of the Dagestani fighters using like heavy drags with their own weight? They'll use their own body weight as a counterweight to drag someone.
Yeah,
Is that something you use a lot?
Trap their foot.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's very popular in today's college style wrestling. It wasn't as much when I was wrestling, 6-7 years ago, but it's very useful. I think you just have to learn that confidence of I'm locked into this position and I'm going to sag off to the side of him and he's eventually going to fall down. You don't want, you step off and then you kind of, you maybe lose his foot trapped or something, and then it gets into a messy position. Because one thing I kind of preach to my guys when I'm coaching them is like, anytime you leave the mat, he leaves the mat, you want him to land first and then you on top of him. You don't want to land at the same time and then see who comes on top. He land, you on top of him. And that kind of foot trap, like drag position, I'm below him. I'm locked on his waist and I'm dragging him down, but I'm below him for a short amount of time, which you got to kind of build your comfort level being there.
That's a great point. I could see what you're saying there, like avoiding the scramble, basically. And I could see where if you're the person that's lower, I could see where the likelihood of a scramble ensuing could be higher. What are some points of control that you would recommend people focus on if they do go that route to avoid ending up in a bad scramble?
A good lock, having a good lock on their hands, and just being operational off your hip. And I'm sure as much as it looks like you're trapping and going dead weight, I'm sure there's a lot of control you're still into. Not letting them reach back to that wizard position, that type of thing, making sure that they're still going down, face forward, that type of thing.
Great advice, man. On this topic of control, what would you say are some of the most important principles of controlling a downed opponent? So once you've taken the person back down, you've gotten control from the top, what points of control are you typically most focused on?
I stay behind their hips, right? Obviously in wrestling, you want to flatten them out. But I always look to control the smaller part. So like control fingers and hand to get to the wrist. I don't look to control elbows and shoulders. Guys are just too strong. I don't want to be extended. I want to be short where I'm strongest. And that same thing goes for like when I'm getting out from bottom. I like to be short and strong. And if I'm on top, just knowing how to manipulate the arms, so where if I take their fingers back, then their whole arm's pretty weak. But if I try to pull him back from his forearm or his wrist, he's pretty strong. But if you add that, wrist joint, I'm kind of throwing up hands here, but you got to understand how the body moves and controlling things from their weakest point possible. Excuse me. But also kind of pinching hips and getting off to the side to where the ref won't call you for stalling. Obviously, grappling, you don't have to worry about that. But getting off to the side and taking risks, look for position, look for opportunity to submit or turn, but then quickly getting back to your safe spot, quickly getting back and preventing risk from happening.
That's excellent, man.
Or from worse happening, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's actually, I really like that a lot. Yeah, guys, as Nick mentioned, he has a great instructional with us here at BJJ Fanatics. It's Winning Mat Wrestling for Upper Weights by Nick. It's available right now at bjjfanatics.com. So if this is an area of your game you're wanting to improve upon, you got a two-time NCAA champion showing you exactly how to do it. So go check it out. And Nick, there's something you mentioned that we were talking about earlier that if you don't mind, I'd like to circle back to real quick. A really valuable strategy is the idea of draining and exhausting your opponent's energy. We were talking about how if you can hang in there long enough, sometimes you can see the signs of that someone's wilting. What do you think are some tools that you've used successfully that have caused your opponents to unnecessarily waste energy? What are some things that really work well for that?
I think controlling the head is a big part. Whether keeping their head down, whether you're on your feet or whether you're on the mat, right? Keeping their head on the mat, and I think. It kind of sounds silly, but putting them in uncomfortable positions, and whether it be a forearm on the back of their head or their face turned, or a knee on their elbow, some things that, they're not necessarily moves per se. They're not oh, I'm going to turn you with this move. It's more I'm just getting in this position and I know it's uncomfortable. And when something's uncomfortable, that they're no longer focused on how to get out, but rather let me get my wrist back and your elbow or your knee off my elbow.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, where it's small stuff, which I would equate to hand fighting when you're on the feet, because not everything converts into points, but small things that you can kind of wear guys down over time and frustrate them and then that type of thing. Man, and in return, it might create openings for turns or submissions.
Yeah. Man, I really like that a lot. I could see where that it would cause just extra variables for them to have to deal with and think about that gets them thinking off of their trajectory that they're trying to stay on mentally, for their goals, what they want to do next. Secondly, it just seems like you're adding layers of stress on the guy. So that's really smart.
Those are great ways to put it.
Yeah.
Great ways to put it, Ryan.
Yeah. I could definitely see where that would wear a guy quicker than usual. So that's awesome, man. Let me ask you this, Nick. I mentioned in your intro that you're now a volunteer assistant coach at Cornell. What have you enjoyed most about pursuing a coaching role?
What I've enjoyed most is probably watching guys develop and break through. And it's the development is tougher to see in the practice room every day, but when you go compete and you see, maybe you lost the guy in the beginning of the year, but then you beat him at the end of the year, that's very rewarding. And then even just, kids being grateful for your time helping them. Because they may not always be the best one or whatever, but it's like if you come in when you say you're going to come in and you work just like you're the best guy in the room, that's all I can ask for. I can put things in front of you. You can try to use them. And I understand not everyone is going to be a college champion in the room. It's impossible to have. But come in, give your best effort you can. Same thing when you go compete. Go out there, compete hard, give me your best effort. I'm not going to be mad at it, right? Yeah, I'm going to say, well, yeah, there's things you can work on. I'm not mad how you competed, though. Sure, you made a couple of bad decisions. We can change the decisions you made, but if you don't compete with effort and intensity and like you care, then I can't control that. That's on you.
That's excellent, man. Nick, I always love seeing someone that's reached the levels that you have, turning around and giving back to the next generation, man. I really do commend you for that. I think it's obviously the guys you're working with are very lucky to have you there, and I think it's really cool to see people who have been there and done it coming back and showing the young guys the way. So kudos to you on that, man.
Thank you,
Nick. In closing, man, what are some of your major goals for 2024? What are some things you hope to accomplish by the end of next year?
Make the Olympic team and win the Olympics.
Nice.
That's it.
Nice. That's incredible, man. I'm definitely cheering for you to make that happen, brother. I really do hope it happens. And
thank you.
Yeah, man, I really do appreciate your time today, Nick. Well, folks, unfortunately, we're fresh out of time. Nick, man, great conversation, man. I really, really had a good time talking with you. I appreciate all the insight you gave today, and you're welcome back on the show anytime. I'd love to have you back again in the future.
Thank you, Ryan. It was a pleasure being out here and kind of reaching a new cast of people with the Fanatics and the BJJ side of things. Excellent.
Well, man, like I said, you're welcome back anytime. For anyone out there that wants to keep up with Nick, it's real easy to do so. His Instagram is ngwiz. It's WIZZZ. So 3 Z's at the end. If you guys are on X, he's there as well. Same handle, ngwiz. And then, guys, we talked in depth today about his instructional he has with us here at BJJ Fanatics. It's called Winning Mat Wrestling for Upperweights. It's available right now. So head over to BJJFanatics.com and pick up a copy today and start improving that aspect of your game if that's an area that you're trying to work on. And that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. I really appreciate you tuning in. Please stay tuned for the next episode of the BJJ Fanatics podcast.